This is lesson 1 for week 1 for November. So those of you who are doing them out of order, this really helps. I'm sorry, I just broke my glasses. I just sat on them today, so I apologize. This is kind of an eyesore, but I will fix it. Get a new pair rather. So I think this one really helps you for week 2 because it builds to what you need to do. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. Move that out of the way. All right. So what you see here is a very long story. Let's just start here. Let me go back just for a second. It's been a while. It's been a week since I taught this one. I'm already on lesson 2. I had planned to do Roman mythology and just hit a writer's block. I didn't want to do the stories. I thought they weren't, either they repeated something I'd already done, a lesson or a moral that we've already done, or it just was too mature. So I just went completely different. And I want to share with you, this is new for me as well. So I switched to Irish legends. So you can kind of follow along. I won't share the screen with this part. Again, we're going to kind of go back here with legends and myths. They are oral tradition. This is Irish mythology, dates back to the 11th and early 12th century, so a little bit later than fables and fairy tales. So what you're going to find this month, we're going to do 3 Irish legends and myths, is they kind of copied a couple of elements from other stories, which that's what storytellers do. So mythology and Ireland really take it to a whole nother level. There's intrigue. There are twists in the story. There's supernatural elements to the story. So we're going to start with just traditions, popular traditions in Irish life. And I'm pretty sure the color, if I asked you, what color would you think of for Irish? And most of you would say, for St. Patrick's Day, green. And green, the green shamrock, a symbol of luck. A lot of people said leprechauns. So perfect. Just there are traditions in every culture, which I love. And Irish traditions are pretty cool. And much of Irish traditions, the reason we're talking about them is because with the potato famine, Irish immigrants came over to America. And when they did, they brought their culture with them. You know, you think about Asian cultures, Indian Asian cultures did the same. You know, your parents came here wanting a better life, and they brought with them Indian stories, Indian religious practices, Indian foods, so good. So the same is true for any culture, which is why the United States of America is called the melting pot. So Irish songs and limericks and tales all have kind of a very unique flavor. Irish folklore depicts a close relationship between humans and nature. So you'll see trees and hillsides, wells and water. And then you're going to see mythical creatures like werewolves, banshees, fairies, leprechauns. So when you think of fairies, I don't know about you, but I think of, Tinkerbell in Disney, right? In Peter Pan, real sweet and good. So in Ireland, fairies are mythical beings that descended from angels or demons. And all that means is they're good and they're bad. So this gives an explanation for their mischievous nature. Ireland remains a sacred land for these impish creatures. They are, in Irish, they are said to live in mounds of earth. They are ruled by a king or queen, and it's said, this is kind of the Irish lore, if one hears a wailing or shrieking, she cries to warn the family of an upcoming death. Now, something similar is a banshee, female, right? Now, fairies can be male or female. A banshee is mostly female, a supernatural being said to foretell death with a mournful wail. She appears in lament to announce the forthcoming death of a family member. Leprechaun, they are always male. They are the cultural symbol of Ireland, serving as unofficial ambassadors of Ireland. Legend says they're sneaky tricksters who cannot be trusted. They're often pictured as elderly men with beards, and obviously there's never been a female leprechaun, but they're humble shoemakers of fairies. So I asked students last week, when you picture a fairy, how big? And most of them were this. So it's really interesting, the take, because we're going to read a story today where the fairies fit in a bottle. So what size bottle did you think of when I said that? Right? And a leprechaun is said to, they try to steal the pot of gold at the end of your rainbow, but if you catch them, they owe you 3 wishes. Another really cool Irish feature is butterflies. And this is for the females out there. According to Irish mythology and folklore, this is beautiful. Butterflies are said to move between worlds and bring messages and warnings. They're said to be souls waiting to be reborn on Earth. This is why butterflies still play such a prominent role in material culture today. You're going to see them on jewelry, hair clips, T-shirts, dresses. I have a shirt with butterflies on it. So butterflies with dark wings were said to warn of bad news, such as an attack or failed crop, while butterflies of light color like white and yellow were told to bring good news, such as birth or success. So I just thought that was absolutely lovely. Okay. So now that we're kind of done with that part, just kind of introducing it, I want to show you, I'm not going to read the story. It is 5 pages long, and I don't want to take, valuable class time going over 5 pages of a story. So if you look here, the page starts, The Legend of Bottle Hill. We've got 1 page, we've got 2 pages, we've got 3 pages, we've got 4 pages, we've got 5 pages. The moral, I love it. They're like fables. They give it to you. Easy gotten is easy lost, and ill gotten may cost more than you think. Okay, so instead of doing that, what I wanted to show you is how do you break down the story elements. So I'm going to break it down for you. And if I've done my job with breaking down the story elements, I'm going to give you the main points of the story, right? So who in this story? We have some characters here. We've got Mick Purcell, Molly Purcell, a dwarf-like old man, a landlord, and fairies. We're going to have 2 different sets of fairies, okay? Good fairies and the bad fairies. For those of you who don't know what a landlord is anyone who owns property and has someone rent or lease that property. For example, I am one of about 20 tenants in this building. One person just bought the building. So we all pay our landlord. But the landlord has to keep up, the landscaping, has to pay any, let's say I had a flood or, the roof leaked and it damaged the office. That would not be my penalty. That would be the landlord's penalty. Okay. So here we go. We have to identify the problem. And this kind of is stolen from Jack and the Beanstalk, everybody. Mick and his family, I'll just go with the beginning. Farmer Mick Purcell and his wife, who rented a small farming plot in Mourne, Ireland, had a large family who did their best to help out, but remained poor, barely making a living. One year when the oats spoiled and their chickens died, desperate to make any money to pay the rent for his family, Mick sets out to sell their remaining cow. Very Jack and the Beanstalk-ish, right? If you are familiar with Jack and the Beanstalk, the fairy tale, he went out and traded it for beans, and he came back and his mother was furious, right? And rightly so. And we all know what happened. So Mick trades his cow for a bottle. I know you're thinking that's pretty foolish. So let's kind of see how this took place. The rising action is really, really short. And I like a rising action that really builds to the story. So this is not my favorite part. Mick took the cow and headed directly towards the town. Along the way, he passed an abbey, climbed over a mountain or mountains until he reached a place called Bottle Hill. Now, obviously, he's going to town because this is where a good trade would take place. All right. And you can kind of get a sense of the scenic route he took. And the climax of the story, this is that moment where everything in the story changes. Okay. Suddenly, Mick encounters a strange looking man, dwarf-like, who had old yellow wrinkled face, red eyes, and white hair. Immediately, Mick felt uneasy and fearful, as he could not see the man's legs, and his body was wrapped in a long coat, and he did not appear to walk like an ordinary man. So he's strange, right? The man spoke to Mick, asking if he was eager to sell his cow, and Mick was afraid to say no to the old man, but asked what he could pay. Remember, he's desperate here. And what do desperate people do? Sometimes they make foolish decisions. When the old man showed him a bottle, Mick laughed, thinking it was a ridiculous notion, right? You want me to trade my cow for a bottle? When the old man showed him, okay, but the little man convinced Mick, calling him by his first and last name. Okay, that's creepy. Someone calls you by that you've just met them and they know your first and last name. Okay, so just kind of a little creepy vibe here. He claimed the bottle would make him rich. Okay, so that's going to hit his hot button. He's desperate. They're destitute. Only after the little man puts horrifying ideas in Mick's head, and you have to read the story to, what he tells them, what if your cow dies on the way? What if this happens? He kind of wore him down. So Mick agreed, and they traded a cow for a bottle. So this is kind of the supernatural element in the story. He gave Mick instructions. Okay, when you summon the bottle, sweep the room clean, set a table, spread a cloth over it, put the bottle on the ground, and say, "Bottle, do your duty." Okay, so then we have the following action. Okay, Mick, of course, brings home the bottle to his enraged wife, but gently told her the story of his encounter with the odd little man. This is extraordinary. This is, maybe he was put there for us, She rose up, swept the floor, laid the table as instructed, put the bottle on the floor, telling it, "Bottle, do your duty." To their surprise, two tiny fairies dressed in robes rose out of the bottle and proceeded to instantly cover the table with beautiful dishes and plates made of valuable gold and silver. In each of these dishes were delectable fine foods, the likes of which they'd never eaten before. Okay, so not only do they have something to sell, the gold and silver plates that they serve the food on, they're feeding them every night, right? In a way, exactly what the dwarf-like man said, it will make you rich. So Mick sold the fancy gold and silver each night until they could no longer hide their wealth from their landlord. The landlord became suspicious. I think this is really logical. It would be as if your parents won the lottery, $20 million. And I'm guessing they'd spend some of it. Maybe they would save it. The average person, the average lottery winner, average, not all, most, spend it within 5 years and end up in further debt. And that's going to come into play here when we talk about your application to this story today. So the landlord says, "Hey, what's going on? How are you making money?" Right? Forced to come clean, Mick showed the landlord the bottle, and that was his mistake. The landlord demanded Mick sell it to him. Thinking he had more than enough wealth, Mick agreed. Soon after, when Mick ran out of goods to sell, because he got used to, it was always coming. It was always free. It came to him pretty easy. All of a sudden, he's like, "I'm right back where I was." Fearing a life of poverty, he still had a cow. He once again sought out the little man. So he took the cow he had bought with, the money, and he went to the same Bottle Hill, to the same dwarf-like man who, strangely, was there. Coincidence? I don't think so. This time, when Mick exchanged his cow for a bottle, he was surprised. When he and his wife summoned the bottle, out come two brutish fairies who beat up Mick, beat up Molly, and beat up the kids. So they're like, whoa, what did you do? Okay, so this is a really interesting twist in the story. And the story could have ended right here. He got what he deserved, right? He thought he could just, it would just come easy. He didn't have to do much. But there's a nice twist to the story here. Mick came up with a brilliant idea to trap his landlord and retrieve the original bottle he had previously sold to him. While the landlord was hosting a party, Mick had a servant call him out to speak to him. Mick admitted he was destitute and needed to sell him another bottle, claiming It was better than the first one. Really sneaky. The pleased landlord allowed Mick to place the bottle on the floor, summon the fairies, bottle do your duty. And of course, the two brutish fairies beat up everybody at the party, and the landlord's, stop him, he begs Mick. But Mick says, I'll stop the fairies only if you agree to give me back my first bottle. Mick's trick worked. He leaves the landlord's party and house with the first bottle and the second bottle. And this is kind of how the story ends. We kind of have a wrap up. Mick and Molly, eventually die, having regained their wealth, but no one was able to inherit both bottles as they mysteriously broke when they died. Sometimes when your parents make money and they pass on, they leave you an inheritance. So this is in Cork, Ireland, we assume, back in the old days. So why is this story? What's the why here? Mick's encounter with the old man would have set him and his family up for life if he had not been carried away with the idea of accumulating more wealth. Thinking he found a solution, once Mick sold the first bottle, he believed the old man would help him a second time. Little did he know what the little man had in store for him. It appeared this mystery man expected him to return. He knew Mick would have squandered his good fortune. Now, how would he know that? Okay. The message of the story, this is the how, was shown to explain what happened when Mick became too greedy. And let me tell you, nobody really got this week. This is kind of really one of those interesting themes. The story explained why Mick fell into this trap, which was because he didn't appreciate his new wealth because he did not earn it. Wealth came too easy to him. And this is really what happens with lottery winners. The reason they spend it within 5 years is they don't take care of that money. It's free money. They don't look at it as I blood, sweat, and tears. I worked so hard for this. Because it's free, they don't value it. And I do think there's some truth to that. So when Mick is given a second bottle, I think he was punished for his foolishness. And yeah, he learned the error of his ways, but woo, little sneaky ending there. Okay, so we're going to scroll down and I'm going to tell you what I want you to do today. I want you to give me an application, a real world application. And I like to do that because I love the message of the story today. Because I know for me, when I was in 7th grade, I had 2 older sisters, and my older sister used to babysit for our neighbors, Katya and Tommy. And when she got into high school, I inherited the babysitting job. So this one summer, I babysat those kids every day while the mom went to work. I made about $600. And I told my mom, I said, I'm going to buy my clothes this summer for school. I want to buy what I want to buy. And my mom was like, okay, buy what you want to buy, which was great because, and I'm going to stop share here so I can, there we go. Which was great because I didn't have to listen to what she wanted me to get, which was always basic stuff. I was like, I want to get that crazy outfit there. She's like, okay, you're not going to get a lot of, that's not real smart. You need to get basic stuff. No, I want that. Not only did I buy what I wanted, which was really empowering, I took care of it. I didn't let her wash it. I hand washed it if it needed hand washing, and I wore it with pride. And I was very careful with what I bought and how much I bought of each item. So I think there's a lot to be said for that. When you earn it. My first car I ever bought with my money, with my first job, was a Honda Accord. And I think to this day, I bought a lot of cars since. It's my favorite car. My husband didn't buy it. We weren't married at the time. My mom and dad didn't help me. I bought that car free and clear with my salary. And it felt good, right? I think you really appreciate. I would wash that car. It was never dirty. I never put trash in the car. I vacuumed it really frequently. I think what happens, and help me, just nod your head with me, when children use their hard-earned money, whether it's allowance, whether they have a babysitting job, they're walking dogs, and they use that money to purchase items they enjoy, they are more likely to take care of them. And that is body one. I want you to write a story using the 5 W's. So this is not expository. This is, you're going to make up a story, any situation. It's not first person, it's a third person story, but explain a real life situation where a child or teen might be more inclined to manage their hard-earned money by saving it or spending it more wisely. Okay, so I have an example paragraph for you that's pretty self-explanatory. So I don't want to get up, so I'm just going to share the screen. Okay, we'll go back to that. You'll see it right here. So when children use their hard-earned allowance or gift money to purchase items they enjoy, they're more likely to take care of them. 13-year-old Sam babysit her neighbor's younger kids, 5-year-old twins, Caleb and Carter. It was only for a few hours so the parents could run household errands. Sam loved playing with the twins and earning money at the same time. She would read to them, play games, and take the time to play with them outdoors. Because she was such an extraordinary babysitter, she was paid quite well. Sam saved up her money, wanting to purchase expensive AirPods her parents refused to buy for her, as they thought she would lose them or not take care of them. As soon as she saved enough money, Sam purchased the latest released Apple AirPods. To her parents' surprise, Sam was conscientious, took care of them, always making sure she put them away properly and charged them so they were ready for the next use. She even took them to school with her every day and kept track of them. The main reason Sam was so responsible was because she bought them with herself and spent her own hard-earned money. In the end, Sam worked hard to earn money and then make a purchase, so she prized what she bought. Okay, so it's just, I made it up, based on I used to babysit. A lot of students this week used dog walking examples. There are ways kids can make money saving their allowance. Okay, so body two is going to be harder. In contrast, when a child is given money or a gift they did not earn, they tend to blow it or value it less. True story, my mother and father-in-law, my husband's parents, give my kids really big birthday checks, like $300, right? Which I think that's a pretty nice birthday present. And early on, we were really, you need to save that money. You're really careful. And, as my kids grew, we knew it was important that they learn valuable lessons with money while they're young. And so we said, it's your money. If you make a mistake with that money and you spend it foolishly, then that's your money that you make a mistake with. And boy, did they learn some valuable lessons with that. My son spent it as quick as he could on really foolish stuff. My daughter's still really good with money, still a really good saver. So what you want to do is give a story here that kind of explains what would happen if it was a gift. And would you care about what that was? So let me share the screen. Okay. So Billy was a busy 13-year-old who had a jam-packed weekly schedule. In addition to numerous after-school classes, he also played club soccer. This kept him and his family incredibly busy, especially on the weekends when he played soccer games and tournaments. Billy's proud parents rewarded him, kind of by spoiling him, purchasing him whatever game system and games he wanted to enjoy in his downtime when he was at home. The problem was Billy refused to keep his games organized and left them sitting out where they could be damaged. He would also forget to charge his controllers and not be able to play when he wanted. Even when Billy's parents yelled at him to take better care of his equipment, he did not seem to make it a priority. It was not until his parents decided to pack up his game system and games, threatening to give them away, that Billy finally got the message. They refused to buy him any new games because of the way he treated the ones he was gifted. Since then, Billy's parents now require Billy to do chores around the house to pay for any new games he might like. Because he was given the games and game system, he did not value them like he should. And that's not just true for students, ladies and gentlemen, that's true for adults. And I think the lottery statistics can tell you that. So you'll notice the lead is just a summary of the story. The Irish story, The Legend of Bottle Hill, presents a timeless theme of someone who's given a way to make money, and instead of taking care of that gift, squanders it away. Think about it. If he hadn't been buying so much that his landlord noticed, if he had been saving that whole time, even if something had happened to the bottle, he would have been set for life. Because he was careless, reckless, foolish, squandering the money, and then bragging about it to his landlord. Yeah. So husband and wife, Mick and Molly, receive a magical bottle from a strange man. And a lot of people last week said it was a leprechaun. You read it, you tell me what you think. When fairies come out of the original bottle, they leave them with enough gold and silver to leave them rich for life. The problem happens when they take their easy lifestyle for granted and sell the bottle to their landlord. Because they did not manage their money wisely, the couple is left trying to find an easy way out. The story makes it clear what happens when someone is given a gift they do not treasure. Okay, so then we go back to the conclusion here. And notice I didn't put a restated thesis for those of you who are doing that. I'm going to let you figure that out. If I gave you the thesis, you can figure it out. Just, put the sentence in different order. Similar to the message presented in the story, The Legend of the Bottle Hill, children today often act the same way as the character of Mick, who did not appreciate what he had until he lost it. Then instead of working hard for his family, he didn't just go out and say, I'm going to go get a job. He went back to Bottle Hill to that strange man to get a second bottle. That should tell you he wasn't willing to work for it. Mick deserved to have two brutish fairies come out of the second bottle and teach him a lesson. Yet Mick still does not learn from his mistakes. Instead, he tricks his landlord and somehow found a way to sneakily walk away with both bottles. So it seemed fitting at the end of the story when both bottles are mysteriously broken, so no one can benefit from them. Okay, so let's kind of wrap this up. See if there's anything you need to do. Okay, so this is the application to the story. I went through those story elements because this week, lesson 2, week 2, it may seem like a really easy lesson, but it's not. This will be a summary. So this one you needed to build. I apologize for taking 30 minutes really to teach the lesson and the application to the lesson. I'm going to assume, and I hope that you read this story because it's fascinating, that you read the story on its own because it will just help you become a greater storyteller. And I can tell based on what you do with the story, what you put in the story. Okay, this concludes lesson 1.